This is Hannibal Specter from Spectral Evidence. You're listening to Music City Metal.
Hey y'all, this is Mal Malefique from Spectral Evidence, and you are listening to Music City Metal.
This is The Butcher from Spectral Evidence, and you are listening to Music City Metal.
You are about to enter the Electric Fishbowl with DJ Fish. We are metal, we are family. Welcome to another episode of Music City Metal. Boy, I've been looking forward to this band, Spectral Evidence and the Electric Fishbowl. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello.
Yes. So we, The Butcher, Mal Malefique, I think I did that right, and Hannibal Specter, who you and I have spoken before.
Good to see you again.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Nice to see you. And Friar and Triz, how do you say? Trismegistus.
Yes.
Are out on assignment, unable to be here. So we got a lot of music to play. We have played a couple of songs by you all here on the show, but I'm ready to do them all. And again, thanks for taking the time, coming over and sitting. And I'm very excited to learn more about you guys. So I think we'll start with you, Butcher. Mr. Butcher.
Yes, sir.
What, obviously, you weren't born in the South here.
Nope.
Tell me a little bit about your background and what brought you to Nashville.
I was born in Birmingham in England in 1983.
Oh.
And moved around a bit growing up. I spent some time in Amsterdam. And then I moved to the States when I was in my early teens, initially to Colorado. And then I spent 10 years in Florida. I moved to Nashville about 7 years ago.
Did you come here specifically for music?
I did, yes.
You did?
Always been avid listener of music and been playing guitar since I was, probably 12 or 13. And that's about the time I joined my first band. And
wow.
Have been in bands kind of ever since. I've always enjoyed the creative aspect and also the sort of brotherhood aspect of being in a band. And
right.
Yeah.
Boy, to be able to say you're from Birmingham must be pretty cool with all the phenomenal bands that came from that area.
Just the Sabbath alone.
Oh, gosh.
For most people,
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, man.
And if you've ever, it's much improved now, but if you'd been to Birmingham when they were from Birmingham, you would understand why they sound like they do.
Yeah.
Because it was a pretty... it was a very, not when I was living there, and I hardly remember it, but I mean, when they were coming up there, it was a kind of hard, cold industrial town with, really sort of a very tough working class people living there. I mean, they, from what I understand, sort of wanted to sound like the Beatles, but they they projected that through the prism of Birmingham, and that's what came out.
Yeah. One of my favorite metal biographies is Ozzy's book. I don't know if you've all read it, but he talks a lot about what you just said about what Birmingham was back in the day, and that there was nothing there, and you were either a factory worker or nothing, and that was it. But some of the best metal comes from that area, in my opinion. And what about you, Hannibal? Are you native Nashvilleian, or where are you from originally?
So I was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and moved down here to Nashville about 6 years ago. Work and my studies brought me down, and I've always been a lifelong musician. Started playing piano when I was about 8 years old, started playing guitar when I was 11, picked up bass when I was 21, and just kind of fell in love with Music City right away, and made some really great friends in the music scene, befriended some really great musicians, some of whom are here with us today.
Yeah.
And as the Butcher alluded to earlier, so much of what is fulfilling about music for me is the opportunity to kind of merge creative energies with people that I love and people that I respect, and people whose talent I really admire. And I think that's one of the really great things, or one of the things that I really love most about Spectral Evidence is getting the opportunity to do that with some of the people that I really love.
Yeah, so that we'll go. That's very well said. Malefique. I'm working on my French. What are you born and raised here? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Not at all. Grew up in Stratford, Connecticut, and
another northerner.
Yeah, I lived there, and then I did went to college in Eastern Kentucky, Morehead State University, and kind of grew to love this kind of southern rural lifestyle, and I really dug it, and moved back to Connecticut, and then did some music up there, playing some pretty cool bands, in and around New York City and in the Connecticut scene, and then kind of wanted to make a change, and I moved to Nashville in 2000 and was here for about 4 years. I loved it, but had some personal problems and, just family issues, and ended up moving back to Connecticut and kind of being close to family for a little while. And then I basically, 2011, I came back down, and I've been here ever since.
Oh, yeah. Similar. I have a similar story. I came here in 98, and I came here to shoot a music video, and less than a year later, I was here permanently. Wow. And same thing, 2010, Mary and I both had family issues, health, and went back. But as soon as our kids graduated high school, we were back here in 14. So similar, but great place. And especially this year. Now, you guys are a relatively new band. How did you all get together? And, whoever wants to jump in and share that story.
Yeah, totally. So, Fryer and I, he is our other guitarist other than the Butcher. We started playing music together pretty informally, almost 3 years ago. I think we were hanging out somewhere, and I didn't know at the time that he was into metal, and I was wearing a T-shirt. I think it was an Amon Amarth T-shirt, the Swedish death metal band, Viking death metal, and Fryer, said, "Hey, I love Amon Amarth," and I said, "Really? That's awesome." And he said,
I love it when conversations start that way.
Oh yeah. Oh no. That's half of the reason that I think metalheads wear those band shirts is just, so you see whose eye catch or whose eye you catch in public, and they go like, "Hey, yeah, man." But and he said, "Hey, we should get together and jam sometime." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And we got together and kind of just, first of all, I think started just by kind of fooling around with like some Black Sabbath covers and some Iron Maiden covers, and before long we were working on a handful of our own tunes, and they were songs that eventually became Night Gaunt and Sandcrawler, and we are fortunate to have this circle of friends that include some really great and talented musicians, and that included the Butcher, and it included Mal Malefique and Trismegistus, and over time, probably starting about a year and a half ago, we started trying to bring some other people in, and we had this kind of vision for these songs that we started to write and wanting to perform them live and put on this stage show alongside the music itself. So we kind of started to kick around ideas for stage personas and costumes we would wear and stage names that we would take on. We played our first show at the Cobra just about a year ago. I think it was like a year ago, maybe a week from now.
That's great.
We've been playing shows around Nashville for the last year, and we've played at the Cobra, we've played at the Springwater. We did a show at Mercy Lounge, part of a showcase. We
that's
played at
great.
the booth, and we're just having a lot of fun playing shows, and what we hear a lot from people at our shows is, hey, I don't usually really like metal, but I really love you guys.
Yeah, there's something about it. I mean, that grabbed me, and I'll tell you, I went out to see Crusade, and hadn't heard of you all before, and saw you at the Springwater, and it was one of those things where I was instantly hooked. There's bands that do that to me, and some are like, they're good, but they don't hook me. And I came home, and I had this big studio monitor, and I blasted that album for about 10 days straight, and I just couldn't get enough of it. And I'm like, this is different. I had this feeling of the old 70s rock, and just a different vibe to it, but very like, I hear Sabbath, and then I hear this, and my wife came and said, "Larry, they're excellent, but please, I need a break. I can't, please," because I get into that mode. If something hooks me, I can't get enough of it. So, I really like the fact that you're incorporating theatrics into and what's the vision Butcher, for, you know, if you had an unlimited budget to do a stage show, what would be
unlimited budget? Well, seeing the last Maiden tour was pretty inspiring. Can we get dual flamethrowers for Trismegistus? Because that was pretty effective.
The backflash flamethrower, yeah.
That was a spiritual experience, that show, for me. That was amazing.
Those guys are amazing. I mean, kind of like Hannibal was saying, I mean, the cool part about this band is we're kind of a mixture of like being ourselves and kind of a persona in the band, you know. So that's a very liberating thing, like creatively, and just like on the formation of the band, because they'd started jamming on some stuff, and then they brought me in, and I wrote a riff, I think, at the first rehearsal that ended up being a tune on the album.
Dispel,
yeah. And that's the thing, like, that's the cool thing about creativity. Like, I wouldn't have written that if I hadn't played with them, you know, but you get in that creative space together, and then you just kind of stuff starts coming through. And then we brought in Mal Malefique on drums, and I think we'd probably written 4 or 5 songs pretty much completely instrumentally, and even had the lyrics written before we even got Trismegistus. There's definitely a moment, I remember the first time he came and rehearsed with us, and in the minute he started singing, I was like, okay, this is the band. It's kind of like you're hearing your band for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you made eye contact with me across the room, and I was just like, yep.
Yeah, it was one of those moments. It was kind of an electric, okay, cool, this is a tasty musical gumbo that we've put together. You know?
Well, what do you say we hear a tune and come back?
Yeah.
First one here, we're going to play Shroud, Music City Metal. Coming up a little bit later in the show, of course, we'll have my better half, Mary Fish, doing the NashvilleMarch.com show schedule, the heavy metal forecast for the first week of December, and lots more to come from Spectral Evidence. Here's Shroud.
Blood, I'm talking, barely able, got it in my
Shroud, Spectral Evidence on Music City Metal. Malmalif. I F that up again.
Malefique.
Malefique.
He
What's my problem?
Mal as well.
Mal.
Yeah.
I have a chronic mispronunciation. Last night, when the last show I did with a band called Iron Uprise, I said Irie because that's how they say it in Jamaica. Everything Irie.
Irie.
Yeah, but they were Ire as in, you know. Anyhow, who inspired you to become a drummer, and who's your favorite? Like, do you remember? Do you have a specific moment in your life where you're like, I want to be a drummer, and it was because of this person? Like, who would that be?
I mean, as a kid, I remember just growing up and just listening to the Beatles. You know, my parents. I remember that red and blue albums, the greatest hits albums, those tapes, I should say. They were tapes, and I remember I listened to those tapes over and over. And, just Ringo Starr, I wanted to be Ringo. And I remember I was like 6 years old and I had a little Muppets drum set, I was just banging on this thing until my brother and his friends kicked holes in all the drum heads and stuff and destroyed it. But I don't know, I just kept with it and I always wanted to play. And my dad would let me listen to his vinyl, like Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa, and he was like playing all this jazz stuff.
Oh, wow, yeah. Jazz influence
You
then.
get out the Maynard Ferguson, and I remember listening to Maynard Ferguson, and, but then my brother was like, you need to listen to this, and he slapped, Zeppelin 4 on my head, I'm like 6 years old, like,
Yeah.
just
So
love
that
it.
was it. It was Zeppelin that what got you.
Oh yeah, Bonham and
The
all
first
that
one.
stuff, and
Yeah.
I listened to all the the Who and all those bands because of my brother. He's 8 years older than me, so that's where it kind of started. But then it kind of I started taking lessons, and I went off in a concert musician way. I did a lot of concert band, symphonic band, and all that kind of stuff all through middle school and high school, and marching and all that kind of stuff, and did some jazz here and there. But from the beginning, it's probably the start was Ringo. That's
Wow.
where it began.
Great answer. It's not normally what you hear,
Yeah.
and I like it. That's great. It's what got Ozzy going too. What about you, Butcher? Who was there a particular artist or a moment that put that desire in you to be a musician?
The Red and Blue Beatles albums.
Wow.
It really was, yeah. The first one's 62 to 66 and then 67 to 70. Yeah, those were like the first. I had them on CD.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Beatles were like everything to me. Ever since I've gotten into music, always been into music from the past. Like there are definitely current bands that I like, but my tastes have always been like from a couple decades before I was even born. I don't know why. It's just kind of what appealed to me. But yeah, I remember listening to those, and I remember listening to Yesterday, and I listened to it over and over again, and not understanding how someone wrote a song that perfect.
Yeah.
I couldn't really comprehend it. It's still a little incomprehensible, but yeah, it definitely started with the Beatles for me, and then kind of went from there. But I'm always coming back to them. I just did so I have all the Beatles albums on mono, the mono vinyl box set, which they put out a few years ago. And since I got it every year, once a year, I listen to all of them chronologically.
Oh wow!
It's an amazing.
I've never
experience.
done
It
that.
takes about 12 hours, but it's when you see, in my opinion, there's no other band that's had that kind of artistic growth in such a short time. I mean, they
Right.
go from Love Me Do to A Day in the Life in 4 years. It's
And
sorta
it was right around the time they started experimenting with psychedelics, and I think it made them look inward, and a lot of people, they have certain names for it, but that's when the music changed. I mean, I like those two. Yesterday, the Beatles for me, my uncle introduced me to, and I can just remember in his little Pinto with an 8-track player. And, I figured out how to click to get to Yesterday, the ones that I really liked. And I was very young, 6, 7 years old as well. But that change that they had once they seemed to get into the experimentation is when the music connected with me a little bit more, but
yeah. I like different periods, but yeah, you touch on something too that's really funny that becomes very apparent when you're listening chronologically. It's just lyrically, they go from sort of boy loves girl, girl doesn't love boy, I love you, you love me, and 3 years later they're saying relax your mind and float downstream, it is not dying. They're kind of dropping Eastern philosophy
exactly,
into the growing minds of these young people. It's
Meditates once.
yeah, it's pretty hilarious actually. Like the universe, I believe the Beatles were brought together to transmit messages of love to human.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I genuinely believe that. But the universe, I think,
too.
has a funny sense of humor with that stuff because it's pretty hilarious how that happened. But yeah, and you could argue too, the Beatles, I'll probably get some shit for this, but first metal song, Helter Skelter.
Oh yeah,
That's pretty fucking.
oh no, you're fine. No, it's
Can
all
you
right.
say fucking?
Well, you can. I just have to check a box. Then it's no big deal. You know, it's no problem. You just have to say there's an explanation. It's all right.
It's pretty heavy.
You butcher. No,
There
you're right.
goes our
No, it's
under
okay.
18 demographic.
It's okay. It's not a problem at all. As long as you tell them that there's explicit content, you can. Hannibal, tell me your story on this. The same question.
Unfortunately, I don't have like a super cool story about the first time I listened to the Beatles and having, something click inside me. I got an electric guitar and an amp when I was 11 years old because I had fallen in love with hard rock and heavy metal. And within a few years, I was listening to Swedish death metal and, the Gothenburg sound, Opeth. I loved Opeth. At the Gates, Arch Enemy, just that whole kind of like melodic death metal, and that genre, excuse me, that genre is full of shredders. And I don't know what it is in my personality or in my brain that just never let me kind of acquire that skill set. I've never really been able to shred. I've never really been able to play these kind of, insane lead solos that genre really kind of thrives on. And, I kind of got down on myself for a little while because I felt, as a 12, 13-year-old kid who's trying to play guitar like the music that he loves, I kind of felt like, well, is there something wrong with me that I can't just get this stuff? And I came to Black Sabbath fairly late in the game. I think later than probably a lot of people, who listen to the kind of music that we listen to do. And I just remember being so blown away by Tony Iommi and the way he plays guitar. And, he has a very simple toolkit, a lot of power chords, a lot of minor pentatonic scale. And he just makes it sound so massive and so, dark and evil and sludgy. And that was, I think, kind of one of the first moments listening to, Black Sabbath as a teenage kid, where I was going, hey, just because I can't shred doesn't mean that I can't, play heavy metal music. But I still never really, whatever it is in my personality, that is required to be kind of a metal guitarist, where you can stand in front of a crowd of people and play this, rip this insane solo and like, just kind of think like, hey, like I'm the shit. I just never had that. I never had that piece of my personality. And when I was 21, my junior year in college, I had a good friend who had this melodic death metal band, and they had a battle of the bands coming up and they needed a bass player. And he said, hey man, I know you play guitar. Do you mind filling in on bass for us for, just this battle of the bands? And I said, well, I've never played bass before. I'm a guitarist. And he said, oh, that's fine. Come learn the songs. You can play with a pick, and we played the show, and something about picking up a bass and playing a bass for me just felt right. It just felt natural. I could kind of, lay back on a groove and just kind of, disappear. And from that experience onward, anytime I played in a band, I wanted to play bass.
Oh, wow.
I loved being able to make the walls shake.
Yeah.
I loved kind of just laying the foundation for the music and letting everyone else shine and have their moments. But the bass player that really, I could try to pretend to be super cool and say like, yeah, Geezer Butler made me want to be a bassist. Troy Sanders from Mastodon really is the bass player
cool.
who made me, I think, kind of open up to what a bass player can do musically. Specifically the Blood Mountain and Crack the Sky albums. I remember when I started playing bass for that friend's band, and I ended up being the full-time bass player for that band for about 3 years after that. But I just remember when I started showing up to practice with them and like work on new tunes, I was like, I want to play bass the way Troy Sanders plays bass. And that kind of, propelled me down that kind of stoner, sludge, progressive style. And that's what I really love, listening to today. I love the kind of wall of fuzz, massive bass tones, that are really popular with kind of stoner metal, doom metal, sludge metal right now. And that's what I try to bring to Spectral Evidence, is just that kind of big, massive, monolithic wall of.
And that you all do incredibly well. Let's hear two in a row. We're going to hear Fever and Untethered. They just kind of flow together. Is that correct? Long break, and then coming up right out of the break, Mary Fish will give the NashvilleMarch.com heavy metal forecast for the first week or two of December. And after this, I want to get into the lyrical themes that you all have that I'm really into. So we'll talk about lyrics right after this. Music City Metal Fish in the Electric Fishbowl with Spectral Evidence.
when she lays down by my side, I can feel the power.
Hey guys, this is Mary with the NashvilleMarch.com rock and metal forecast for week 1 of December 2019. We're going to kick it off on December the 4th with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra at Bridgestone Arena at 7:30 p.m. That's a great way to start the holidays. Definitely get you in the mood. Then on December 5th, Agnostic Front with Slapshot at the end at 8 p.m. That's a 35th anniversary tour of Victim in Pain, so definitely go check that out. They are the godfathers of hardcore. Don't want to miss it. Then we've got Friday, December the 6th, Goodbye June with Heathen Sons at the Basement. That's a double header. They are going to be there Friday and Saturday. On Saturday, they will be at the Basement with Voltage Hawk, both at 7 p.m. So if you're into Goodbye June, you have 2 chances to see them, or just go twice. Tickets are only $15, so you could go twice. See, let's finish up Friday the 6th. Cadaver with Ruby the Hatchet at Exit Inn at 8 p.m. And then Taco Mouth with Nowhere Fast and Stepsisters at the East Room at 8 p.m. Then moving right along to Saturday. Saturday looks heavy. Sumner's Circle with Deface the Dream and Autumn Lies Buried at Nash Vegas at 8 p.m. And then wrapping up the week, Kickin' Valentina with Kiss Kiss Bang at Hard Rock Cafe at 8 p.m. It's always nice to see Hard Rock Cafe playing hard rock. Then on Tuesday the 10th, In Flames with Red, Arrival of Autumn. They are all at the Cannery Ballroom at 7 p.m. That looks to be a good show. Back in on the 12th, Thursday, Devil Master with Waxed, Birth Order, and Tom Violence at Dark Matter Collective. If you're trying to look up Dark Matter Collective, there are no vowels. That's at 7 p.m. Then we're moving into Friday the 13th, Sleep for the Weary with Them Fixes and Two Dead Men at the Crying Wolf at 8 p.m. And then also Chevelle with Convey and the band Royale at Marathon Music Works. That's at 8 p.m. So that wraps up. It's halfway into the month of December here, guys, rocking out the last bits of 2019. We will check you guys later. Back to you, Fish.
Thank you, Mary. You always do that so well and beautifully. Make sure you go to NashvilleMarch.com. It's a great place to stay up to date. Subscribe to their newsletter. December newsletter came out first thing this morning, and it's all things heavy metal and Music City. Shout out to Evan and E.T. Brown. Just a great thing. Nashville March is the metal and rock community hub. So there's a lot of meetups. They meet at Black Abbey Brewery from time to time. They have vinyl metal nights. So hit NashvilleMarch.com. Subscribe to their newsletter. So, lyricist, is this a collective thing? Is there one person that does this? Anyone can jump in who wants to.
It's sort of collective, yeah. Trying to think on the EP we released. Yeah, I wrote lyrics for a couple songs. Triz and I collaborated on a song, and then Hannibal Specter wrote lyrics for a couple tunes. Did the Friar write lyrics for any of these?
None that are on the EP.
None on the EP, but some of our upcoming stuff.
Some of your upcoming. How many? How much?
There's no specific lyricist.
Yeah, well, that's actually, it's nice that it's shared. I mean, you a lot of bands, there's one guy that does it, and but I like the fact that it's a shared thing because everyone gets their contribution and whatever's going on in their heart, soul, brain, and life. How many more songs do you have written, and when can we? I know this EP is relatively new, but I'm dying for more already. How many songs do you have, and what's the plan to release new stuff?
I think right now we've got about 3 songs that we are either pretty happy with or kind of putting the finishing touches on. And we've got 2 or 3 songs that are relatively new in the process that we are hoping, I think, even in the next few weeks to start really kind of digging in on and trying to get them worked up. What we have kicked around as a band is the idea of kind of shooting for this goal of every year or two trying to release a new EP with 5 or 6 songs on it.
Yeah.
Early out of the gate, we were really into the idea of trying to do like a full album, 10 or 12 or however many songs. But we kind of ended up feeling like with the way people consume music these days and just the way we are musically, the way that we kind of blend different styles and we all bring in different influences, and it lends itself to kind of this, shifting landscape and this, really kind of rich canvas of different influences that we draw on. Trying to do smaller EPs and release them more frequently will allow us to get a little more music out there quickly, and also I think give us more freedom as artists to be able to explore different sounds and different styles, and rather than kind of feel like, hey, we need to do 12 songs and they all need to sound a certain way, we can say, hey, we've written 4 new songs and they might be a little different than the last 5, but here they are.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, bands evolve. And I like it when bands evolve. Like Tool. Let's talk about Tool a minute. There's a lot of Tool fans that can't stand the album, the new one, because it's different. There's some bands that have evolved in the way where like, I'm not digging that. Metallica is one of them. you know, in those late 90s. I remember like whipping Reload out the window. I couldn't listen to it, you know, and I love Metallica. I mean, I have Metallica jackets with 22 patches on it. The fact that you're leaving,
jacket, by the way.
oh man, I love it. Shout out to my brother Tom Andillis, Patchmaster Productions. Find him on Facebook. But yeah, that was one of the coolest things this year for me. But you know, leaving that open for you guys to evolve and experiment, it's always good because you just never know, you know, what could happen. And we're gonna play a couple more here. We have Dispel, Night Gaunt, but before we get into that, like, share what the immediate vision is for the upcoming year. I know I mentioned, like, if you had an unlimited budget, what would you do? But what, and also how people can get in touch with you and book the band, whoever's doing the booking. Do you have a plan to try and spread out in Nashville a little bit? You want to, anyone who wants to?
The first part of the question, yeah. So next year, we want to start working on some new material. We'd like to make a video for a song from the EP. And, you know, if budgets allow, maybe we'll be back in the studio at the end of next year recording our next EP, but that'll kind of be dependent on the sort of financial situation.
Right.
There's no lack of creativity, but, you know, these things cost money.
Exactly. We all have to eat.
Yeah, we'd like to be playing out in Nashville once every month or two, and yeah, maybe doing a couple, like, shorter sort of weekend trips, you know, to some closer markets. But as far as booking, I'll turn that over to Hannibal.
Yeah, and you know, just to kind of piggyback on that, speaking personally, not necessarily like on behalf of the band, but you know, me personally, I would really love to try to see if we could get on the bill at Muddy Roots next year.
Oh,
that looks like an insane bill, and I would love to see if we could find a way to try to get out there. As far as booking us, probably the best way to contact us would be through Facebook or Instagram. We're pretty active on both platforms. We're on Facebook as Spectral Evidence. We're on Instagram as @SpectralEvidenceMetal. You can send us a message there if you're interested in booking us. We've also got a Gmail address, spectralevidencebooking@gmail.com.
oh, there it is.
And, you know, we try to keep our schedule pretty flexible because, you know, we always enjoy when opportunities come up, and, you know, we just try to stay open and receptive to any opportunity to play out, whether it's an opportunity to open, to headline, play as part of a showcase, play at a house venue like the Booth.
Yeah.
We're all doing this for fun and for our own personal and musical fulfillment. So, you know, we're open to a variety of experiences and opportunities. And if anyone's listening to the show and they're digging the tunes, you know, please reach out to us. We would love to play out at your venue.
Well, consider this an official invitation for Fish Fest 2 next October. And we had a really successful first Fish Fest. And we're going to make it 2 days next year.
Wow.
So it's going to be a Friday and Saturday thing. Our goal is to have at least a dozen bands this time. And hopefully the timing will work out. We're not going to do it in August. We're going to wait till the weather's a little bit cooler and drier. It's good for camping and all that. But I would love it if you would be there. That's for sure. And Mal Malefique. Let's just, we're going to get into Dispel here. And Night Gaunt's coming up. But if you had the chance to open up for any band next year, who would it be?
Oh my. With this group, I'm taking it. Yeah, I guess, yeah, that would probably be awesome if we can get on the stage with Iron Maiden when they come back.
Oh, jeez. If they come back.
Yeah,
they're getting up. They're getting on up.
Yeah, but I don't know. They look like Bruce is probably in better shape than I am. I'm in pretty good shape, but he's running around all over the place.
No
like crazy,
kidding.
man. So, but I'd love it. That would be
Iron
awesome.
Maiden.
Get on that bill, but that's far reaching maybe a little too far.
No. Hey, you know, vision is vision.
There were some local bands we were wanting to play with as well, weren't there? Hannibal?
You know, there's so many great metal bands in Nashville right now, and several that have even kind of gotten to be pretty famous. I mean, the best example is probably All Them Witches right now. They're in Europe right now opening for Ghost.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I didn't know that they had gotten picked up.
Yeah. So they're over there. If we had the opportunity to open for All Them Witches, I think that would be killer.
That's great.
We'd love that. Just kind of do like a local bill. So Ben McLeod, if you're listening and you guys need some openers for those 3 New Year's shows you guys are doing at
Let's
Exit
come
In,
back
hit
from
us
Sweden.
up, man. Yeah.
And how about you, Butcher? What would your answer be? Anyone you could open up for?
Opening for any band?
Yeah.
Alive or dead?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, preferably would like a live one, but
I think Metallica would be pretty epic.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I haven't seen them in quite a long time. Couldn't afford the ticket this time around. They're getting a little pricey. I had to, choosing Maiden over Metallica, I had to. As big as a Metallica fan that I am, but $250, pretty steep for ticket prices.
It's getting outrageous now.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the next tunes here. Dispel and Night Gaunt, and we'll come out with a short segment, say goodbye. But here, check these two out. Music City Metal.
There's no escape from time and space. No future for the human race. No future.
I think Night Gaunt's the one that I've been playing the most of. I don't know.
Cool.
Yeah, I like it. That song there. Anyone want to talk about the influence for that, or is there a cool story behind it?
I don't think there's probably like a super cool story. That was a song that I wrote the lyrics for, and you know, if anybody's trying to crack the code of any songs that I've written lyrics for, the answer is very simple, and it's H.P. Lovecraft. So, you know,
cool.
Night Gaunt is a recurring creature from Lovecraft's fiction. It's this kind of, it's based on these nightmares that he used to have as a kid, where this kind of faceless, you know, black anthropomorphic figure with wings would come into his room at night and just watch him sleep. You know, it's probably some kind of form of like sleep paralysis or something.
Yeah.
But there are these creatures in his fiction that will kind of snatch people and then take them to this deep underground, you know, vast subterranean lair and just leave them there. And so, you know, that's a song that it's really about just kind of a Lovecraftian creature. But I think one of the things that we have done is, you know, we'll kind of couch our lyrics in kind of classic metal or horror tropes, but, you know, really also kind of get at just something, you know, personal that's important to us. And, you know, Night Gone is also kind of just about isolation. You know, it's about this kind of feeling of being trapped away from other people and, you know, feeling like maybe you can't connect with other people, and but also monsters.
I really like it when a band digs in and takes something that inspires them, like a work of fiction, and then turns it into something else. And that's really cool. Gentlemen, any final words here as we wrap up? Anything that you want to mention that we didn't ask or say before we end this great session here this afternoon?
I would. This is the Butcher. I would just remind people that they can listen to our EP on Spotify and Apple Music, and just want to thank you so much for having us on and sort of, you know, championing bands in the scene here, and we really appreciate your support.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I'm on your podcast. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and make sure you get your 0.001 cent, because I probably played that tune 300-400 times. So make sure you get your quarter. Don't let them screw you out of that. That's just a little dig at that. You
That's
know,
why we're doing this, man.
I know.
That's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
We love pinball. So
Yeah.
of course we can do a lot with that.
Well, better yet, you guys have some great merch. Is your merch available online?
We don't have a web store set up yet, so unfortunately, you're gonna have to come see us
Oh,
live if
well-
you want to grab one of our shirts. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, make sure you do that. How about you, Mal? I went blank.
That's all right. I'm always like that.
Lafique. Let's try and redo that. I just like had window shades go down for a minute there. What the hell happened? Oh, jeez. I think I need to eat. It's a bad idea when I take my diabetes medicine and don't eat. Well, again, special thanks to Spectral Evidence for coming out. It's so much appreciated to people to take time out and share their talent with the world. I have some good friends in Europe that listen to the show faithfully. I've been to Sweden a couple times, in England, and doing metal festivals. So it's going to get out there, and I hope that your next show is really soon. I'm looking forward to coming out and seeing you. And peace to you. And next time we get together, you got some new tunes. We'll be in a new location, new Fishbowl, not too far out. And thanks for being on the show, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Fish.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Having us.
Thank you for having us. Really great to be here.
All right, peace. Music City Metal. Make sure you hit the subscribe, comment, like, follow the links. We'll have links on Instagram to Spectral Evidence's page on both Facebook and Instagram. Like, share, and comment. And you want to make the world a better place? Commit a random act of kindness to a complete stranger. Peace.